Hey everybody, good morning. I wanted to welcome you to the Inequalities Quiz that hopefully you just made an attempt at and you've already sent it in to me so that now you're watching this video because I've shared it with you. So this should look very similar to the quiz that you just took. Notice I've marked down the sides. Each question is worth 4 points. So if you kind of want to grade yourself as you go along and see what you think you would have done on this quiz. If you filled out the understanding, that's 1 point. That makes a total of 25 points. So it should be able to give you an idea if you want to kind of check yourself. I will also be giving you some feedback from what you shared with me digitally. So let's get into it. So the first question is this word problem about the golf scores. And it says that there are 3 of my golfers who have totaled 255, plus a 4th golfer who we don't know. And the average of the 4, so we're going to add those all up because those are the 3 golfers plus the 4th, divide by 4. We want that to be less than or equal to 83 because in golf you want to have a lower score. So you can see I'm multiplying both sides by 4. 4's cancel. 83 times 4, it took me a second to work this out. But you can see I went ahead and put 255 plus x is less than or equal to, thinking, 332. Now, we're going to subtract the 255 from both sides in order to get x by itself. The 255s cancel, and I've got x is less than or equal to 77, I think. I had to do a little bit of long subtraction here. You can see I'm canceling out some numbers, getting a 7, canceling that, and then another 7. So, now remember, this is a word problem, so you don't want to leave your answer like this. We would just say that the golfer needs to score 77 or better. You could say 77 or lower if you want, but that's an acceptable word problem answer. Now for this, I want to point out, I did not get rid of the decimals, but I could have, all right? The first thing you could do to everything here on both sides is multiply by 10, and then you'd have all integers, which probably might have made it easier for a lot of people. I didn't do that. That's okay. And you'll see what I do here. All right, I solve it, but we do need to graph the answer. Okay, so let's watch as I solve. First thing I do is I get my b's together, so I subtract 1.2b on both sides. That leaves me with negative 1.4 is greater than or equal to 0.3b minus 0.5. So now I need to get the 0.5 over to the other side. So I add 0.5 to both sides. Now over here, negative 1.4 plus 0.5 is negative 0.9, is greater than or equal to 0.3b. Divide both sides by 0.3, divide by 0.3. Those cancel. And the b is going to be less than or equal to negative 3. Now I do want to point out, I went ahead and flipped it around to get the b on the left. I kind of did that in one move, and notice I flipped everything around to do that. Now we have to finish it by actually graphing. That's the next step. So let's go ahead and graph this. So I just need my number line. I need my negative 3. I need a 0. We're going to have a filled-in circle, and it's pointing to the left. That's it. That's our graph. Now the next one is just taking a graph and turning it into interval notation. That's it. That's all we have to do. It's a closed circle at the 0, so that's why it's a bracket. And it goes from there, it goes to 3, but then it has an open circle, so that's parentheses. That's all you got to do. That one was pretty quick, pretty easy if you could understand what to do. All right. What's next? Next page. Now, we got this Hamilton problem. Obviously, this is from a couple years ago because people still went to musicals. And if you do remember, Hamilton was a pretty pricey ticket if you wanted to get good seats. So Jake here says that he knows that every seat in the lower level is more than $275 each. So if we're saying each, we need to think Jake's getting one for himself and his partner. So that's a total of more than $550 because 275 times 2 for 2 people is 550. So it's got to be more than $550, but it also says that he has a budget of $850. So when you have a budget of 850, you could spend all of that, including the 850. So it says to put it on a graph. So what are the amounts of money that Jake could spend here? Well, he could go from $550 down here up to $850 over here. It's an open circle at 550 because it said that it's going to be more than that amount. And 850 is a closed circle because he could actually spend 850 and all of the numbers between. Now this next one says translate from interval notation into the regular solution. And this is also one of those times where it's actually easier than you think. I just picked the variable t because I like it. And I know that the first part of the interval notation goes from negative infinity to negative 8. So that's like saying less than or equal to negative 8. Now I see the u in the middle, the union. That means it's an or problem, where we jump from one to the other. And at the other end, it's going from 11 to positive infinity. So that means it's greater than infinity. Okay? Hopefully you also understand why this one is less than or equal to and why this one is just greater than. Okay, the last problem that we're going to spend some time on, I'm not going to go over the extra credit because that's saving something for later. But for this problem, notice it's an and problem. So I split it up. I took the middle part and I put it over here and over here. Now, over in this part, I subtracted t from both sides to get the t's together. And then I've got 3 is less than t plus 1. So subtract the 1 from both sides. And then we'll have t, if we read it backwards, t is greater than 2, or 2 is less than t. Now up here, I'm going to subtract 2t from both sides. Those cancel, and I'm just left with 1 is less than or equal to t. Now this is an and problem, and let's pause for a second. Let's think about what this is saying. Down here it says 2 is less than t, which is the same thing as t is greater than 2. And over here, 1 is less than or equal to t, which is the same thing as t is greater than or equal to 1. Now, if I repeat that, t is greater than or equal to 1, and t is greater than 2. So this is a case that we talked about in class yesterday. If we think about this on a graph, this graph would have both of them going greater than. Both arrows would be going this way. So where would the arrows be overlapping? That's what an and problem wants. You want to know where would they be overlapping? They would be overlapping once you get above the 2. Because the t is greater than or equal to 1, that's this curve over here from the 1, and then the 2 is coming from here. When do they actually overlap? Once this curve gets over the 2, so they both are happening. They're both covered from 2 and going to infinity. So let's see what I did here. What did I say? Oh, scratch that out. Obviously I messed something up. So I put a number line because I was like, oh, this could be helpful to show what I just explained to you. So on the number line, I think I started to do something. Yep, there we go. I put 1 and 2. And I said, basically, there's an open circle at the 2 going that way. And the one from the 1 would be covering it. But we don't need to show that arrow because we only want to show where they both would be covering. And they both would be covering from here to forever. So that's one way you could have shown the answer as a graph. You could have shown it as a interval notation, 2 to infinity. Or you could have just said t is greater than 2. These are the only 3 acceptable answers for this last problem. A little bit of a tricky one. We did talk about it yesterday in class. But one of these 3 answers is what I was looking for. You didn't have to give all 3, just whichever one you preferred, because the instructions said, show your answer the method you'd like. All right. Feel free to go back through, pause, rewind, look for any other questions that you might not have understood. See what you think you would have given yourself, and then you've got an idea of how you would have done on this quiz. All right. I will see you next week. Bye.